we create many challenging documents. The documents are for our products. They include a lot of different graphics. We try to make sure that we have callouts so those can be translated. We do write for translation in mind. We also have a lot of different tables. We try to break those apart so they are consumable for our customers. And occasionally we do have SVGs with embedded content, but we do try to avoid that and change it, update it if we do come across that. So I want to step back in time and talk a little bit about working with WHP. Initially, when we started with our CCMS, we needed to manage translations. We sent them out, but it was all manual. We had to manually download, zip the files up, load them onto an FTP site, tell WHP that they're there in an email. We would wait for a quote via email to come back, send another email back to approve the quote. Translation would be sent out and pulled back together into another zip, put back on an FTP site. I would download it and then have to upload into our CCMS. So very time consuming, a lot to manage. We used a spreadsheet to manage it, which was not ideal because there would be times when we weren't sure where something was. So with all of that in mind, we went back to Bluestream and said, we really need something automated, and talked through it with them. It took us a good amount of time, but we did get an automated system put into place, and WHP was extremely helpful in testing this translation automation. It wasn't initially straightforward. There was a lot of testing that needed to be done, so very helpful with their able to test and have their partnership. We also had times where we had strings out, files out, that we needed to know if a specific file was associated with another document we were currently working on. And at the time, we had no way of knowing what that was. So we went back to Bluestream and said, can you tell us, create a tool that which files are out with our translation? So they created reporting. And so this report will tell us where files are used and if they're connected with a certain document that we are creating. There were definitely times when we'd go to WHP and ask if they could tell us, what files were associated with something that was out with them with translation. And a lot of times they could, but again, this is something that we needed to be able to tell and not have WHP digging through files to let us know if we knew where our content was. And then lastly, when we started, we were sending just the strings that we had worked on in English, so updated. Most of the time it wasn't a full document, and that was all that was sent to reviewers. Well, of course, the reviewers are like, this is out of context. I don't understand what this is saying. So again, we worked with WHP and they created the augmented review. I know Matthew mentioned that, and just in case briefly you don't know what augmented review is, one side of the screen is the English, like PDF example, and the other side is the translated content. And the only piece that is open for editing is in the translated piece. So it's helped the reviewers get through more quickly, know exactly what's needed of them so they can concentrate on that review and move on. So future needs. One thing that we've been looking at, our current system does not have branching. Some do, ours does not. It does make it difficult when we're trying to review something that we maybe just sent out for translation, because we have to wait for that to come back. So we will be looking at branching for our instance. We also want to be able to dynamically post. We need to purchase a connector. The way that we have it set up now, everything is created in a PDF. We have to request a web upload, and dependent on other people dynamically posting, we'll obviously work through the steps, but once we get a workflow that's been approved and the document is deemed final, we'll have it posted out on the product page instantly. Another item that we're looking at is embedding video content in our technical documents. So we realize that some of our equipment is very technical and can be challenging at times to run or to install. And so if we can see an advantage of creating either a CGI graphic or a short video clip that we could explain how to install or how to configure one of our transmitters, then we're going to have embedded video. And then with that, we want WHP to help us translate that embedded video, because it's not probably going to be very helpful to have a translated document and then the video is in English. So we'll be working towards that. Another thing that we're investigating right now is machine translation, and we will be working with WHP to see if this is a good fit. We realize that machine translation is complicated. We want to make sure that our tags are protected and that we don't end up with corrupt data as we move forward with this. So we will work with them to make sure that we get the value that we're looking for. And so I'll speak a little bit about our partnership with WHP. They have a vast amount of DITA knowledge, a lot of knowledge around elements and attributes. A lot of times, if we can't figure it out, if we ask them, they can come back to us and tell us. So we feel like it's a great partnership and really appreciate their knowledge. Their augmented review process has been time-saving and very helpful for our reviewers, and we're happy that we have that in place. They provide great customer service, very quick to respond. We consider them experts in their field, and they are very patient. We have some very challenging reviewers, and I can't tell you how many times we go rounds with questions and changes, and they always step up to those challenges and help us out with our reviewers. We also have something we call a measurement tool, and it was another thing we added early on. And what it basically does is, if we have our measurements, we always lead, because we're English or US based, with imperial units, and then we have a metric unit that will follow. If it's put into the tool, those measurements will swap. So if it's going to a European-based language, it swaps, so metric leads. It has the ability to also convert for us. And so with all of that, WHP helps coordinate with our translators about our measurements. If measurements need to be looked at or you can ignore them, a lot of times the translators were swapping and then the tool would swap it back. So right now, as long as we've got our content in it, the tool takes care of it. WHP is very consistent in validating our content. We rarely, if any time at all, have any kind of issue trying to get our content imported. It's been extremely helpful getting through translations. They've truly been a partner. They also help well, they might test us, but they help test all of the tools that we've wanted to implement along the way. One of them being this localization automation tool. It is, it was a huge undertaking. It took us many months to put that into place. So we really appreciate all of the testing that went with that. And the last thing I want to mention is with time, the cost savings are realized. We have sent out multiple rounds, 2, 3 rounds of certain documents, and we definitely see the cost savings with that. And we obviously appreciate that because that allows us to create additional content with the budget that we have. And just want to say we really appreciate our partnership with WHP.